None other than the Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong recently had a few different speeches and interviews where he came out talking about the crypto industry. And the things that he had to say, I honestly think went over a lot of people's heads. He talked a lot about the current debt crisis that the US is facing, that other world leaders are facing, and how this problem needs to be solved immediately, and how cryptocurrency is essentially the solution to this problem. But also, if the governments don't adopt this, there's a solution that every single person like you and me can also implement, according to Brian Armstrong, which is simply to start accumulating cryptocurrency as a hedge against these monetary systems, which are going to collapse or just continue hyperinflationary measures in order to stay active. And obviously, I think all of us can agree at this point in time, hyperinflation and money printing is not in our best interest. It helps the governments finance their debt by devaluing the dollar, but for you and me, it doesn't help us at all. And well, this is why I wanted to talk about and show you some clips in today's video, because Brian Armstrong does a great job of really breaking this down. So I'm going to start by showing you guys a clip from Brian Armstrong, a short one, and then we're going to get into some things that are affecting the markets and other things like why I think everyone should accumulate 1,000 XRP, and we're going to take it from there. Listen up, hit that like button, let's get into it.
Products, but there was something you said on stage that caught my attention. You said that Bitcoin could become the world's reserve currency because of the US debt situation, which is ballooning. How realistic is that?
Well, it really is unclear at this point, but one thing that is clear is that democracies around the world are having trouble getting deficit spending under control. And that can only, if you study history, right, the changing world order, different empires, like who had the reserve currency at different moments in time, once you decouple currency from hard commodities, the inevitable story is they get overprinted and extend, right? And so I think right now, to be clear, I want the US to remain the reserve currency status. I think a strong America is very important for the world, and I think cryptocurrency is helping the dollar enormously with things like USDC and stablecoins. But if the debt situation doesn't get fixed, I do think that eventually Bitcoin will have to become the reserve currency for better or worse. It's not going to be the Chinese RMB because I think they have their own debt problems, and it's not a coincidence that as we're seeing all-time highs in US debt, we're seeing all-time highs in Bitcoin.
You had a great chart in there too in your presentation. But what's the tipping point for that to happen? When debt hits a certain level, suddenly we have to worry about the world reserves currency being the US dollar?
Yeah, I mean, there's not usually, it's like one of these things like the frog is slowly cooked, and I think if you look at other countries in the past, it was maybe around 150% or 200% debt to GDP. Things started to get a little wonky, and so we're going to have to see what happens. I hope that the Congress, which is doing an amazing job, by the way, and on passing legislation in a bipartisan way for crypto, and this administration, the Trump administration, has been an incredible tailwind for crypto. They've done an incredible job. So, I think there's a lot to be grateful for, but I hope that the U.S. government can get the spending under control to preserve this American experiment.
Do you agree with Elon that this tax bill that might pass, that could be the triggering point? That's the triggering point for potential economic crisis.
I'm reading both sides on this, and I don't know enough to say for sure. To be honest with you, you're asking questions a little above my pay grade, but I think this bill, it doesn't have the full ability to touch on discretionary spending. There may need to be a follow-on bill to that. I hope that they're working on that and make the best they can out of this bill. Maybe there needs to be separate legislation to cut spending elsewhere. I don't know.
Right, so there's obviously a lot of moving parts here, but there's some big things that Brian Armstrong had said here. First and foremost, crypto can essentially be the solution to the problem, right? Now, I want to point back to some of the empires that Brian Armstrong was referring to. Number one, the Dutch Empire was a global empire, and they had trade routes all around the globe, and they had the world reserve currency at one point. But after they were extremely indebted to all of their different colonies and trade partners, and they were unable to sustain that debt, their currency collapsed, and then the next empire rose, right? That's eventually we saw the English Empire. Same sort of deal happened with the English Empire. They were overtaken by the US, and now we're in the US's era. And the US is experiencing this very same problem that England and the Dutch Empire and even the Roman Empire all faced. And that was on the inability to service the debts that they are accruing on an international scale. This is obviously something that is not great. and something that needs to be tackled. And Brian Armstrong seems to think that stable coins, Bitcoin, altcoins, these are kind of the solution to the problem. And I would tend to agree with that. I think that seeing how Trump's positioning himself with stablecoins makes a lot of sense. What stablecoins do is they buy U.S. treasuries. Well, what's that going to do for Trump? Is going to drive more demand for those very same treasuries and allow him to finance the debt easier. That's really good for him. Obviously, that's what he wants. And eventually, hopefully, take down the debt to GDP ratio to a more sustainable level, because let's face it, the US has a very high debt to GDP. It's not looking too good. I mean, just look at Japan and how much debt they have and what that is doing to their economy. It's obviously something that you want to avoid. So with that being said, there's other things that are affecting the markets as well, right? Of course, the Israel-Iran conflict that is ongoing is going to play a huge impact because, well, JP Morgan's now coming out and essentially saying that oil prices could rise to as high as $130 per barrel on international trade. That's going to be obviously a huge increase in prices, and this will cause pretty heavy inflation on a worldwide scale. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, everybody is selling and buying oil. And so if somebody in Taiwan or somebody in China is having to pay more for the transportation of their goods and services, and they are doing any trade at all with the US, the price will eventually be passed down. Most of these companies do not want to eat these extra costs. That has been made very clear. And we can see Iran's production is about 3.3 million barrels of oil per day, or 3.5% of global supply. Now, a lot of people have been asking me, like, how could the price of oil go up 2x because 3.5% of the global supply is no longer becoming available? Well, the short answer to that is other competitors feel more free to raise their prices because there's less oil available on the market. That's just kind of business 101. Price gouging. It's something that you see a lot of. And yes, this will cause inflation all around. And so my point by sharing this with you guys on a crypto video is that it really shows the value of cryptocurrency right now. The dollar is extremely easily manipulated by the, availability of goods and services. Cryptocurrency, not so much. There might be an immediate drop in crypto prices during times of conflict due to uncertainty. That does happen, but generally the rebound is really good. And I think that XRP is a phenomenal option and a phenomenal countermeasure to these types of conflicts that are going on. If the dollar is going to continue to get devalued because of money printing, because the US can't finance their debt, XRP is a great bet. That's simply my thought process, and that's what I am doing. I'm buying more XRP because I know if this does happen and oil does go to $130 per barrel, as JP Morgan is saying, the US is going to print more money. They will be forced to, and that's going to cause inflation, and that's going to cause more liquidity in the markets. Monetary supply rising means value of digital assets go up. That's what we've seen happen so many times. It's really not that complicated, but that's just, frankly speaking, what I think is likely to be the case here. Now, the Coinbase letter seems to think that interest rate cuts are likely to be delayed further because of this inflationary pressure. We're going to see what happens, right? Basically, there's a lot of ongoing things. Nobody knows for sure what's going to go on, but this is just something to keep in mind of, right? So XRP trading at $2.16 per coin right now. You can see I'm still buying these dips. I bought here on this red day. I bought right here on this red day. I still have trigger orders ready to go. I'm very bullish. Every single red day right now, I am excited. I am praying that XRP goes below $2 per coin so that I can open up some more longs on XRP. Because I've seen these rebounds before. I mean, I've seen what happened over here on the 8th of May. I saw what happened here on the 9th of April. I saw what happened over here on the 2nd of March. I've seen it all. I've seen it time and time again. Fear, uncertainty cause mass sell-offs. Conflict like this, it's an exact scenario. We see the big sell-offs right here. And then, institutions, retail decide, we overreacted. They buy in, massive snowball rally, boom, new highs. right? That's what I think is going to happen. That's what I'm calling. That's what I'm betting on. If you want to see all of my entries, every single trade that I make completely for free, make sure you join Crypto Crusaders using my link down below and sign up on one of my 2 partner exchanges so you can get access to awesome bonuses. BTCC giving you guys a 10% deposit bonus, as you can see right here. And BitUnix has awesome features as well, up to $8,000 in bonuses and so much more, guys. So with that being said, yeah, sign up on one of the 2. Deposit and submit your email and exchange user ID, and you get access to the Discord where you can see all my trades. Maybe that's really that easy. You can trade with me. You can just look at my trades. You can just be part of the awesome community and chat with the members. Completely up to you. But I'd love to see you guys in there. Join up in if you're not in there already. If you're already in there and you're not active, get active. I'd love to start chatting with you guys in the group chats. And yeah, I'll see you guys in there. Much love. Peace out.